I think really my starting point was, I honestly remember thinking, well, I need to educate myself a little
Yeah.
bit. So I read a book. I actually listened to Brad Feld's book. I think it's called Venture Deals.
Venture Deals.
Ah.
It is. It's brilliant, but I really, really recommend, if unless you're about to say it's terrible, but personally, I love it. Great.
Love it. And I listened to it 3 times on Audible, like
Yeah.
hiking in the mountains, absorbing this, because what occurred to me after 1 or 2 meetings is investors love to introduce complexity to maintain a power dynamic, right? And not all investors caveat that, excuse me.
But it's a good thing to be aware of when they're doing, because it does tell you something about the investor if they're doing that.
Exactly. It is a huge red flag if in your very first meeting, someone's like, what's your pref class? Does it have like a lig pref? And like, what does that even mean? So very quickly, I was like, what the hell is this language? I must go learn it.
Yeah.
Because if I know it, then I can rebalance that power dynamic. And so that's why I think that book is so good. It offers no opinions.
Yeah.
It just gives you information.
It's a really helpful kind of first way into the terms that investors use, but also the fundamental structures of how particularly venture, and it is a very venture focused book. So something to be aware of is that depending on how much you need to raise, you might not need venture. But if you're thinking about going to VCs, venture capitalists, then I really love it as a book. We'll put a link in the show notes, but definitely worth a read or I don't know if it's on, what's that brilliant startup that summarizes things?
Blinkist?
It might be on Blinkist. Maybe worth a look.
I don't know. The other book that's actually quite good, I think it's called I call it the Idiot's Guide to Term Sheets. I think it's actually called the Pocket Guide to Term Sheets. It's this like 20-page book. And that's also a really great way to just get a bit of an understanding. But yeah, I think for me, raising money was about demystifying it and understanding the language and understanding what was going on. And the minute I had that, I felt a lot more comfortable navigating those waters. I mean, to be clear, I still learn something new every day.
And so you read the book. What did that change about how you were going about fundraising tangibly? So does it change the amount you're raising? Does it change who you're asking for money from? The process? What does it change?
Honestly, nothing. I think it would be remiss of me to pretend that I even had a plan. For me, I mean, it was COVID, right? So it was sort of raising virtually as a first-time female, non-technical founder raising money in a pandemic for a consumer-facing medical device that wasn't built yet. I had no cards in my hand.
Yeah.
Like no cards. And so for me, it was just have conversations, just go and have conversations and lean on what I think sets me apart, which I keep coming back to, which is my sort of evergreen outrage and ability to tell the story of that outrage and just try to get people to buy in. And I think what they say about a pre-seed, you're backing the founder, seed, you're backing the product, and A, you're backing the traction. That couldn't be more true in my experience. And so I think, goodness, that was very up my own.
It's very true. And it's really important to say that they are backing relationships in the early stages. More than ever, we are seeing requests, not in your space because it's totally unrealistic, but in other spaces that there's early revenue and early customers. Medical device, not possible before product. But definitely it's what we see from investors. They are backing the founder. And to your point, how you can get across your passion. And I love that you said that was a card you had. Well, I think you said you had no cards, but then you were like, that was one of the only things you could play is that evergreen frustration.
Evergreen outrage.
Madness. Love it. So I do think that's something that founders underestimate is, and actually it's something I've heard from investors a lot recently, is please, however many investor calls you've done today, please don't lose the passion that you brought to the first call, because I think it's really easy to be doing this a million times and actually to dampen your own level of passion and that you're sharing.
I couldn't agree more. Because at the end of the day, that's what you'll come back to. And look, it's not to say there are many points along the journey where I completely lost that passion and I lost the will to live. And I think I was on conversation 284 of this pre-seed round. And I thought, my goodness, I genuinely, actually, I can't do this anymore. Like I've eaten too many chickpeas and I just don't want to do this anymore. And then something shifts, one conversation goes well and you just think, oh, I'm back in, I'm back on the train. It just takes those tiny moments to sort of remind you actually and pull you back in.
How long was that process of raising the pre-seed for you?
So I opened that round maybe June of 2020. The money hit the bank in March 2021.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, long.
Wow.
Yeah.
And in this point, are you alone, co-founder, team? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I had a co-founder with me at the time. He's no longer in the business. He left the business in 21. It was he and I, and actually he wasn't working in the business. He was full-time employed somewhere else, whilst I was sort of raising money and getting the ability to start to write monthly checks.
And so you get the money in the bank finally. Does everything become easy now?
Oh my goodness, if only. Every time I think something's going to get easier, I think the universe goes, I'm here to prove you wrong. No, it got so hard. It got so hard. I think for me, the rest of that year was completely consumed, honestly, completely consumed with not having a clue what to do and trying to figure it out. And I hired 2 people and they're brilliant. My goodness, my first 2 hires, one of them was a co-founder. The other is as good as. They're fantastic. And really the first year for me was consumed with how do I manage these people called investors? Because they suddenly want a lot of my time.
Yeah.
And then I was also consumed with a co-founder exit, which involved restructuring the business. And then I raised another round at the end of 21 because it was still the venture go days when everyone was trying to park money somewhere. And I went out for 500. I came back with 1.8 and I had no idea what had happened. And so sort of things just start to fly at you in a really interesting way. And I don't regret raising that money. I never regret raising money. You always need money. And it made me quite loose because I'd actually never lived through a funding downturn. So then it set me up for a really painful 2023 because I'm busy trying to get us out of, honestly, I'll be honest, I'm busy trying to pull us out of bankruptcy, 10K angel checks at a time.
Yeah. I
think some of the mistakes I made was I really believed that I had an incredible team. At that point, I had a team of, I think, 14.
Wow.
And so I'm busy trying to get us out of a funding hole, 10K at a time, doggedly believing that cuts is not the right answer. And I look back on that and I think, God, like it felt like the right decision at the time. In hindsight, it was not. It was not. And I think now one of my guiding principles is simplicity. Can it be done simpler with fewer people, fewer resources, and less time? And look, I'm testing that out. Maybe it won't work for us.
But I do think it's a really important thing that founders get a bit thrown by with venture capital particularly, because in order to reach the kind of exit they want you to reach, they need you to be $1 billion company. You are going to have to grow so fast year on year. That means you're going to have to grow your team really fast. And it does make it really hard because as a founder, then if you struggle to raise the next round, and so many founders have hit this because of the market.
Yeah.
And so it can be nothing to do with you. You then struggle to raise the next round and suddenly you can't maintain the trajectory they've put you on because they put you on spending at a way that was never maintainable without more cash because they wanted you to raise the next round because that's their business model. So again, understanding all this I think is so crucial because then it does give you the chance to have some optionality.